We're ready to get started.
Thank you, Chair. We are live on Facebook and the webinar is live.
Okay, so this is Chair Clayton. We are ready to get started. Ready for me to call the meeting to order?
That is correct.
Good evening. I now call to order the meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. Today is Monday, November 22nd, 2021. The time is 4:04, and this meeting is being held utilizing the Zoom web conferencing platform as well as live streaming through Facebook and YouTube. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Clayton,
Present.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Present.
Commissioner Combs,
Present.
Commissioner Gasco-Bentley, Commissioner Roberson,
Present.
Commissioner Caravo, Commissioner Kosaraju, Commissioner Lara.
Present.
This is Chair Clayton. Commissioner Corvo, can you hear us? Do you want to unmute yourself and acknowledge that you are here? Commissioners Kosaraju and Gasco-Bentley did inform us that they would not be here this evening, so they both are excused in their absences. The next agenda item is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Move for the adoption.
Well, Chair, if I may, for a friendly amendment to the agenda,
Yes, Vice Chair El Hassan.
I'd like to include on the agenda just some remarks regarding Chair Clayton, if we are able to add that to the agenda.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, we can add it to the agenda, or we could do it under Commissioner remarks.
I'd like to include it on the agenda if that's okay.
Okay, yes, so we will, a motion has been made to amend the agenda to include Chair remarks regarding Chair Clayton or Chair
Farewell comments regarding Chair Clayton.
Farewell comments regarding Chair Clayton. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Support.
Okay, it's been made by Commissioner Hassan and supported by Commissioner Lara. Hearing no objections, the amended agenda is approved.
Chair Clayton, this is Richard Corvo. Can you hear me now?
Yes, and please let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Corvo is present. Good evening again. It is with honor and sadness that I welcome you to this meeting. My term ends on December 31st, and as Vice Chair Hassan has already mentioned, this will be my last meeting as chair of this Civil Rights Commission. My term is coming to an end, and I did not seek reappointment. So this will be my last meeting, but I have to say, I will have more to say about that later on in the meeting, once we get under my chair remarks under commission business. At this time, I'm going to use a point of special privilege and introduce Cynthia Thornton, MDCR's LGBTQ Liaison, and Liliana Reyes, founding mother and sitting board member of the Trans Sisters of Color Project, for a short presentation on the 20th anniversary of the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which was this past Saturday. This day commemorates the individuals who have been killed due to anti-transgender hatred or prejudice. And after that, we'll have a brief moment of silence. So Ms. Thornton and Ms. Reyes, the floor is yours. And Ms. Thornton, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Seems to be my habit. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Clayton. Good afternoon to you and to the commission. As this term draws to a close, on behalf of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division, consisting of Director of Equity Alfredo Hernandez, Tribal Liaison and Native American Specialist Melissa Kieswetter, and myself, congratulations on a year of hard work and decision-making. I appreciate your allowing me time to speak today. Greetings to Executive Director Johnson, the department leadership, and to the public. It is a privilege once again to come before you. As Chair Clayton stated, my name is Cynthia L. Thornton, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am cisgender, which means I identify as the gender I was assigned at birth. I am masculine identified, which means that while I am female, I am very much in touch with my masculine side so that my manner and appearance, the way that I most often naturally relate and express myself, are more in keeping with what our society typically associates with males. I am a lesbian, which means I am a woman whose primary physical and emotional attractions are to other women. Most importantly, I am a human being seeking what many marginalized and minoritized people seek, actual equality. This past June during Pride Month, Chair Clayton, invited me to come before the commission to speak about my role as the LGBTQ liaison. At that time, I announced that part of my commitment was to raise the visibility of LGBTQ people and to elevate their voices around the struggles they face. To that end, it was going to be my honor to introduce a woman I have come to revere for her courage, leadership, perseverance, and grace in circumstances that break even the strongest people. Unfortunately, there's been an emergency at her job, and Ms. Liliana Angel Reyes of the Trans Sisters of Color Project will not be with us. I will continue forward, and I have her remarks with me. Liliana is a trans Latina, which means that her identity, she does not identify with the gender she was assigned at birth, so she transitioned at age 17. As a trans woman and Latina, she understands the multitude of oppression and struggle directly connected to race and gender. In fact, when we honored Trans Remembrance Week, which was last week, we focus our attention on the high number of Black and brown trans women who have been murdered. Trans violence and murder skyrocket each year, with this year recently reported as the highest on record at 375 worldwide and almost 50 in the United States. Most of these deaths were trans women of color. From these tragedies, the Transgender Day of Remembrance was born out of a desire to collectively gather to remember our loved ones, honor their lives, and raise awareness of the hate that leads to these murders. In order to honor their lives, in order to honor the lives of the fallen and change the path forward, there need to be changes under law and in policies so that trans humanity is acknowledged and trans people have the same recourse that is available to other marginalized people. On behalf of Liliana, we thank the commission for leading in that arena by issuing the interpretive statement that includes sexual orientation and gender identity in the definition of sex as used under the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act. I will close by asking you to join me in a ritual that is of high importance to the trans community in commemorating our honored dead. I will speak out loud the names of the 21 transgender people murdered in Michigan since 1999, then have a moment of silence. You can follow along using the PowerPoint. Thank you. If you can share the screen.
This is Sean. Thank you, Jackie.
Chris Musette. Tamara Michaels. Nikki Nicholas. Riviera Renee. Ashley Sweeney. Foxy Ivy. Sierra Williams. Shelley Hilliard. Coco Williams, Kayla Norris, Amber Monroe, Kelly Stowe, Tia Dalloway, Shayla, Paris Cameron,
The wall here.
Val, Chrissy Harris, Breland Johnson, Jessica Williams, Jada Mercedes Cole, Eartha Kitt. Now, if you would join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Sorry, I am muted. Give me 1 second to, okay, thank you. This is Chair Clayton again, and thank you. There you are. Thank you, Cynthia, so much for all the work that you do in keeping your division not only connected to the community, but also engaged in the community, and all that you do to make sure that the commission remains aware of what it is that we need to know. So thank you very much. And if I can ask for one more moment of silence, I was going to include this all at once, but since our last meeting, we have lost 2 key people within our country, one from our direct city of Detroit, from our state of Michigan. May I have a moment of silence to acknowledge the passing of Barbara Rose Collins, who was the first Black woman from Michigan to serve in the U.S. Congress, and then also former United States Secretary of State Colin Powell, who was the first African-American to serve in that position. May we please have a moment of silence for them. Thank you. Our next order of business is the public comment protocol, which will be read for us by Deputy Director Woolrich.
Thank you, Chair Clayton. MDCR public comment protocol. Today's meeting will be recorded. All speakers must identify themselves by name first before speaking. If you require closed captioning and you are using Zoom, you can turn on captions by clicking the CC symbol on the lower right part of your screen. The commission has already received written public comments and will only be accepting verbal public comment during the meeting. If attendees wish to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda, you must sign up to do so within the next 10 minutes by typing your name and city you reside in the chat box located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If unable to type in the chat box, please click on the icon labeled participants to raise and lower your hand at the lower center of the screen. When it's time for public comments, staff will call on attendees in the order in which we receive their requests to speak, whether via chat or raised hand. MDCR staff will first verbally identify public comment speakers by their name, and then that individual will be unmuted to speak and will be muted after their designated time frame for speaking ends. The public comment time frame for speaking is 2 minutes. There will be a visual timer on the screen showing the following colors: green for 2 minutes, yellow for 30 seconds, and red for stop. The timekeeper will verbally remind each speaker when 30 seconds remain. For attendees who are calling in by phone, to provide public comment, callers must enter *2 on their mobile device to raise and lower hands. MDCR staff will identify callers who wish to speak by the last 4 digits of their telephone number. Please also be aware that MDCR staff will verbally warn any speakers only once if they use inappropriate, inflammatory, or disrespectful language. If use of that language continues, the speaker will be muted. For those who are joining live via the MDCR Facebook page or the MDCR YouTube accounts, there will be an approximately 20-second delay between the actual Zoom meeting. Individuals who wish to deliver verbal public comments can only do so if they are attending via Zoom or by phone. Thank you, Chair Clayton.
Thank you, Deputy Director Woolridge. And just to reiterate, if you would like to speak during public comment, please leave your hand raised until that time. Please do not lower your hand until you have been recognized and you have spoken. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I will move Richard Corvo.
Okay, has been moved by Commissioner Corvo. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Support.
Okay, seconded by Vice Chair Elson. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, the consent agenda has been adopted. Next item is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 26th meeting. I believe it was, I didn't change my agenda. What date was that, those minutes? I'm sorry, September 27th. Approval of the minutes of our September 27th meeting.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Lara. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Hassan. Is there any discussion or revision to the minutes? Any opposition to approving the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, the minutes from the September 27th meeting have been approved. We now are moving to public comment. As a reminder, you will be taking comments in the order in which they were received. You'll have 2 minutes to speak before the commission. How many hands do we have raised for public comment right now?
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. We have one hand raised. Will that person please be acknowledged? And what is that person's name, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Casey Messiter of Southfield, Michigan.
Okay, Casey Messiter, you have 2 minutes. Please begin your public comment when you see the clock appear on the screen, or I guess, okay, it won't be appearing. You can just want to begin your comments and our timekeeper will let you know when you're 30 seconds, when your time is up.
Thank you, Chair Clayton. Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Messiter, and I'm the policy analyst at Detroit Disability Power. I'm here today to urge the Commission and the MDCR to prioritize capturing COVID-related disability data at the state level. Last month, the CDC confirmed what our folks already knew, that not only are people with disabilities at higher risk for COVID-19 related illness and death, but we also have a lower likelihood of having gotten the COVID-19 vaccine, and that's despite being less hesitant to get vaccinated. Why? Because of barriers like inaccessible scheduling options, inaccessible vaccination sites, and a lack of targeted outreach and media campaigns. Michigan's vaccination rate for residents 16 and up with at least one dose just reached 70%, and yet we still don't know how many people with disabilities have contracted, became seriously ill, died from, or been vaccinated against COVID-19. Currently, Michigan only tracks COVID-related data by age group, sex, and race. And back in July, MDHHS told CW50 in a statement that they plan to match vaccine records against disabled residents receiving Medicaid, but this has yet to be posted on the state's site. And now, without statewide mask mandates in schools or businesses, and with the upcoming holidays, we know our community is at even higher risk, and the state needs to do better to protect us. The MDCR needs to prioritize capturing COVID-19 related disability data at the state level in 2022. Don't leave us behind. Thank you for your time.
This is Chair Clayton speaking. Thank you, Ms. Messner, very much for speaking. Do we have any other hands raised for public comment at this time?
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised and no other commenters in the chat.
Okay, thank you. We do have about 3 more minutes left in that 10-minute time frame that we said we would allow for people to be able to raise their hands during public comments. So we'll just wait a couple more minutes. Just a couple of quick comments in response to Ms. Messiter regarding her indicating that the commission should urge the capturing of the data regarding people with disabilities and COVID. One thing I wanted to lift up is that at our meeting in September, the commission did pass a resolution which is available on our website addressing the issues in our schools regarding COVID and ensuring that our children have a healthy and safe learning environment, and also supporting the wearing of masks. As you said, there is not a current mask mandate in the state, but that is something that the commission does support via our resolution, which is on our website. We will not be having another meeting this year where we could pass a resolution in support of capturing that data, as Ms. Messenger asked us to do. But I believe what we can do is that we can send a letter, and any of my fellow commissioners weigh in, but I believe that's something we could send to, I'm assuming it is the health department, the state health department, asking that that information be captured just as they are capturing the other numbers regarding COVID cases. And I think we could probably do that letter and have that letter be signed by myself and Vice Chair Liaison on behalf of the commission. That would not require, or another commissioner, but that would not require us having another meeting to actually approve a resolution that will be signed by the entire commission. So would it be possible for me to have someone make that motion for that letter to be done by myself and either Vice Chair Liaison or another commissioner to sign that letter regarding supporting the capturing of that data?
So moved.
Thank you. The motion has been made by Commissioner Lara. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Commissioner Commissioner Corbo. So thank you, Ms. Messiter, for making that request. Is she able to type her contact information to the chat, so just the department or someone from the department will be able to see it, so we can be sure to send her a copy of that letter? Is that possible?
This is
Yes.
the moderator. I can collect that.
Okay, there it is. This is Chair Clayton. Looks like she's already done that, so perfect. Okay, very good. If someone can make sure that that is captured, and we'll ensure that she receives a copy of that letter when we get it done. Okay, thank you. We are now going to close out public comment. And our next item on the agenda is item number 7, and that is a presentation by Ken Coleman, writer and historian. And he is going to talk to us about the 60th anniversary of Democrats Lillian Hatcher, Daisy Elliott, and Coleman A. Young submitting proposals number 1522 and 1523 to the Michigan Constitutional Convention on December 5th, 1961, which led to the creation of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chair Clayton. It certainly is an honor and a pleasure to be before this august and esteemed body to talk just a few moments about a very seminal moment in Michigan history, and quite frankly, the history that helped to start this very organization that's meeting today. And so thank you so much for inviting me to do that. If those listening and viewing can think about 1961, and maybe some of us weren't there. Some of us weren't there, to be sure, but some of us were. 1961 was a very different experience in Michigan as we experience today in 2021. In 1961, our state constitution hadn't been revised since 1908. Our state constitution had not been revised since 1908. In 1961. In those days, we elected our state governor and lieutenant governor to 2-year terms, not the 4-year terms that we've come to know in our experience in these current times. There weren't term limits. State lawmakers, House and Senate members weren't regulated to 2 or 3 year terms to serve. Many of them served oftentimes within the 20th century. Some of them served for 3 and 4 decades, oftentimes, and being chairs for many decades, to be sure. 1961 was a very different year. And if you're not somebody who's interested in politics, you will probably appreciate this. In 1961, a gallon of gasoline for your automobile only cost 35 cents. Only 35 cents to buy a gallon of gas. I think at these times when we're paying $3 and maybe more, depending on where you are in the state, you will certainly realize and experience and understand that was a very different time in 1961. But what also happened in 1961 and 1962, our state decided to revise our Constitution. And what was created was a Michigan Constitutional Convention that created a process by which we would review, analyze, and ultimately propose an opportunity to revise the state's constitution. Again, that hadn't happened since 1908, decades and decades before that process. But there was a body that was approved by state voters to create that process. And that process was largely led by an individual who would ultimately become Michigan's governor, a name that we will all, many of us will recognize, to be sure. It was a process that was largely generated by George Romney. And George Romney, for those who may not know, was, at least in 1961 and through the 50s and the early 60s, was the president of American Motors Corporation, which was at the time a large automaker in our country. And ultimately, we know that George Romney became governor of Michigan. Romney led this process to revise the state constitution, the body that, or the document that kind of guides our process in city government, or excuse me, state government. In 1961, 144 members were elected to serve on that constitutional convention, and they were elected through state house and state senate districts. So the districts that were outlined at that time to have representatives in both of the legislative chambers, there were 144 members who were elected to serve on this constitutional convention and help to revise our state's charter, a very important process, to be sure. What I wanted to share tonight with this body is that we stand on hallowed historical grounds. And what I mean by that is 60 years ago today, the very entity, Chair Clayton, that the body that you lead, the Michigan Constitutional Convention, Michigan Constitutional, or excuse me, Michigan body that leads this entity. It was created at that time, and what happened was at that time, 3 important individuals, Daisy Elliott, Lillian Hatcher, and Coleman Young, on December 5th, 1961, proposed to the Michigan Constitutional Convention a proposal that created the body that we serve today, the commission that helps to lead the Civil Rights Division. It was brought to us today, and that body was approved later in 1964. But what's important is we stand on the shoulders of that 60-year presentation by those three members of the Constitutional Convention, and it helped to create the body that you are helping to lead today, that your colleagues are helping to lead today, that has created incredible legislation, including the Daisy Elliott and Mel Larson Constitutional Civil Rights Act of 1977 that guides a lot of our work. And it would not have happened if not for that Michigan Constitutional Convention in 1961 and the action by Lillian Hatcher, Daisy Elliott, and Coleman Young to create it. So the Michigan Constitutional Commission, Michigan Constitutional Commission that we stand on today has that very start in this seminal act that was created 60 years ago before us. And I appreciate you recognizing that it was important to lift that up during this meeting. And I've been proud to and honored to share it with you on this evening.
This is Chair Clayton speaking. Thank you, Ken, so much for that. And thank you for bringing it to our attention that this year marks the 60th anniversary, because I wasn't aware, and I'm sure that probably some of my other colleagues are not aware as well. So thank you very much. The 60th anniversary of the introduction of the legislation that created the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. Also, too, just want to acknowledge it was last year where a building in Lansing was named after Daisy Elliott. First building first she was included in that first building in Lansing to have an African-American woman's name on it. So thank you very much. And Ken, I'll be remiss if I didn't ask you to let people know if they're interested in more of your history facts. I believe you've written a book. I know there's something that you do daily. So if someone wanted to find out more of Michigan history and the book that you've written, how can they go about doing that?
Well, I appreciate that, Chair Clayton. You've been very, very, very great and sort of offering that opportunity to me. People can follow my work, and that would include being able to see the work that I've done and books and other representations. By following me, I have two important social media followings. They are on Twitter, History Lives DET, History Lives DET on Twitter. And you can certainly look me up on Facebook. I do a lot of Facebook posting each day on the history of Michigan's important history, just by following me at Ken Coleman on Facebook. And so those two spaces, quite frankly, Claire Chayton, are the best ways to be in touch with the work that I'm so proud to do. And again, I'm so proud to present to this august body tonight. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Okay, this is Chair Clayton. The next item is item 8 on our agenda, and that is division reports. We will begin with Director Johnson, who is going to give us an update on the progress made on the 6-month plan that he presented to us at our June meeting, I believe it was, and then also talk about the plan for addressing the backlog of cases that we have in the department. Some of y'all might have seen there's an article written about that a month or so ago. So Director Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, good afternoon, Commissioners. As Chair Clayton indicated, I wanted to bring you up to date on the 6-month plan that I rolled out in June. I took office as interim director on June the 2nd, and then talk about the backlog that exists in our enforcement division. So there were 13 items that I mentioned in my 6-month plan, and it was so many. I'll go through all of them very briefly. The first one mentioned the backlog in both intake and the fact that we needed to complete several hundred cases to keep our EOC contract. We were successful in doing that. 377 resolutions were completed during that time period, resulting in the goal of 668 resolutions under our contract. So we met that goal, and I applaud our staff for their hard work. It was an all hands on deck effort. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it. And I applaud everyone for contributing to that huge success. Meanwhile, we do have over 2,400 investigative cases still to be looked at, and I'll report on that in a minute. The second goal was to reorganize operations. There are some things indicated in the strategic plan that this commission approved under Director White, and we've instituted several of those, but the reorganization is almost complete. I reported earlier that we did do substantial reorganization to the enforcement division, change leadership in terms of our deputy director, establish some new divisions. You'll hear from them later in terms of our contract compliance and education division. And then within enforcement itself, I appointed a new enforcement director. Lori Vincent is out on leave still, so we have an interim director of civil operations. But we also reorganized in terms of two other senior managers in that division. Patty Barrera, Renee Kenyon have been reassigned to other duties within the department. Renee Kenyon's working on our CRIS program, and Patty Barrera is working in our community education and special assistant to our deputy director. So those reorganizations have been completed. We also, and I'll talk later in terms of how we're addressing the backlog, did some reorganization in terms of our teams that was also included in the strategic plan approved by this commission. Number three, it was to correct at least two systemic problems that contributed to the backlog in terms of controlling matters that were coming out of intake, and then controlling cases once they've been assigned to the investigators. And I will address that also in my report on the backlog, because that's part of what we're doing in order to ease the backlog, getting more attorneys involved in the investigative and enforcement stage, and working more closely with investigators. Fourth one was continue efforts to amend our administrative rules. I'm pleased to report that that draft was approved by this commission at the last meeting, and they have been submitted to the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules. And Dr. Jerome will report on that in his report later in this meeting. Fifth was build our stakeholder list that's been completed. We have more than 600 stakeholders on our list now, spanning all civil rights organizations and folks who are interested in our work. And we've been sending communication out to those 600 plus stakeholders on a regular basis. Indicated we could convene our Civil Rights Summit. I'd hope to do that in September. Right now it's scheduled for February. Seventh goal was to further develop CRIS, which is our case management system. I mentioned earlier that Renee Kenyon has been assigned to develop CRIS. She's focused on that full time. And also we plan to hire an IT specialist within the next 2 months to direct this effort. We've set aside money for that. We haven't had an IT person in the department in quite a few years. Develop our speakers bureau. We developed some primary speakers, but I'm finding more and more as I do my one-on-ones with the staff, a lot of people who have an interest in speaking on behalf of our department, I think would be good speakers bureau. So that's still being developed. Enhance our social media presence was number 9. We post to Facebook and Twitter multiple times per day, thanks to our communications director, Vicki Levingood, and her assistant, Jeanette Johnson. Continue efforts regarding police accountability. We've met with Michigan State Police Director Joseph Gasper and Noble and Attorney General Dana Nessel, and we intend to have a law enforcement summit in next quarter. Number 11 was find a CFO. I hired Ann Holmes part-time as a temporary budget and management services director. I've posted for a full-time position. We begin interviewing. I think I singled out 6 candidates starting next week. 12, we established our contract compliance unit. That has been done, and you'll hear from attorney Shanique Moss about the contract compliance unit and her plans for that. Again, during the next part of these reports. Update trainings and branding. Again, that was started under Deputy Director Woolridge. It's been continued under our new Director of Education, Danita Wimbush. Again, you'll hear from her later in this meeting. Then there were a number of other, we established a unit that dealt with AAPI hate. We did receive a $250,000 one-time grant in our budget. I'll speak about that in a minute, which will be used for outreach to the AAPI community and to enhance our hate crime outreach. Then there were some summits that we had intended to have. They've all been postponed until 2022. That completes my update on my 6-month plan in terms of the plan to attack the backlog. I want to indicate that our fiscal 22 budget was approved, appropriated shares, 17,834,000. However, because that's the amount of money we're appropriated to receive, but in terms of the money we actually receive, that's only about $1.6 million. We're not receiving all the monies that we've been appropriated, only half the monies from the federal contracts that we're allowed to receive. And that's part of our plan in terms of backlog getting more revenue into the department. There's boilerplate language in there that allows us to receive monies for private donations, for education. We've woefully missed a mark on that. I've calculated about $1.9 million in boilerplate language that we can go after. And we collected less than $48,000 in those categories during the last fiscal year. So there's room there in order for us to bring in some extra revenue. In terms of the backlog, we're going to be submitting a proposal for change for the fiscal 23 budget and asking for about $2.9 million in order to form 2 investigative teams, complete with the managers and administrative support and attorneys in order to deal with this backlog. I mentioned there's 2,459 cases that we have in our backlog right now. We will continue our triage process, which was approved by this commission and was started under Director White, in which we're identifying certain cases which can be handled expeditiously. I mentioned earlier, we're having attorneys more involved with our investigative teams and meeting with the teams on a weekly basis in order to more effectively, efficiently, and review and move the cases along. We've reorganized our enforcement teams now into specialties. We'll have, in terms of a housing contract, for each housing case that we complete, we get $3,000. For each EEOC case we complete, we get $800. So we're establishing a new housing team in order to bring in more revenue under housing. So we'll have 2 housing teams. We're going to have 3 employment teams, and then we'll have 1 team that focuses on what we call MDCR only cases. And those are the public accommodation, public service, education, police misconduct cases. By specializing, they'll give us an opportunity to more efficiently keep an eye on the cases of which we're under federal contract, and we'll do that on a monthly and more systemic basis. We expect, and we're moving to a team concept in terms of investigations rather than an individual concept where teams are required to turn in a certain number of cases per month. We estimate that with the team concept, with standards imposed in terms of of investigative cases completed, and also if we can get some extra money, and we've met with state budget office, they received our proposal favorably in terms of some extra money to help supplement our budget, to help bring some extra personnel to rid of the backlog. We estimate it may take up to 2 years, though, in order to get this done with staff on hand and even with the extra personnel on hand, because we're bringing in about 100 cases per month. So that we have to cover along with the extra cases. I think I did that in maybe less than 5 minutes. I'm not sure, but it wasn't more than that. Are there
Thank you, Director John.
Are there any questions?
Thank you.
I was keeping track. I think it was 5 minutes and 15 seconds.
What was it? Okay, all right. Okay.
We'll let the 15 seconds slide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And before I go to my fellow commissioners, this is Chair Clayton speaking to see if they have any questions. And I'm sorry, Director Johnson, I think I read your report to the commission probably sometime last week, so I cannot recall. The various items that you went over today, is everything in that included in your report? All that is included in the report? Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure you had a copy of that. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from any of the commissioners for Director Johnson on his report? Okay, Seeing none, thank you very much, Director Johnson. We
Thank you.
next are going to hear from Dr. Jerome Reed, who is the Michigan Department of Civil Rights Legislative Liaison and also the Senior Advisor to the Commission. He's our liaison, and I can't recall exactly when Dr. Reed began. I know it was not that long ago, but it seems like he's been with us for quite a while. He's been very busy writing resolutions and tracking legislation and looking up cases for us. So also following the Independent Redistricting Commission. So he's been very busy. How has it been 2 months yet, Dr. Reed?
Yes, I think it's like 3.
3, okay. Seems like you've been here for the whole year, but okay. All right, the floor is yours to, first of all, I know that on the commission, we know who you are because we, talked to you, gotten to know you, but if before you get into your presentation, just, for everyone who's watching, just give a little bit of background and tell people who you are and how you came to the department and the role that you're serving, please.
Thank you. To the commission, through the chair, this is Jerome Reed speaking. I come to the commission as a longtime civil rights activist. I served the last 12 years as a regional director for the NAACP in the Midwest, serving 7 states that included Michigan. My background is as an attorney for some 25 years. I'm also a political scientist with a doctorate from Michigan State University, and public policy analysis is my strong suit. Having said that, I'd like to discuss what the role of the legislative liaison is. If I could see the first slide, we can begin. Okay. Great, and we can go to the next slide. Thank you. The liaison researches and advises on key bills that come into the House and the Senate that would potentially impact civil rights in Michigan. I am the key advisor between the Commission, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, and the Governor's Legislative Affairs Division. Executive agencies, legislators and staff, committee clerks, and legislative agencies. Next slide, please. I work with the executive team of the department and communicate our position on legislation at House and Senate hearings. I engage other state departments and agencies and respond to inquiries to help constituents impacted by human and civil rights issues. Some emerging issues require careful examination and analysis from the in-house expertise in the department, and I'm tasked with collecting, mobilizing external resources as needed for that. Next slide, please. As the regulatory affairs officer for the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, I've submitted the request for rulemaking, draft rules, and a regulatory impact statement into the administrative rulemaking system. When those are reviewed and approved by the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules and the Legislative Service Bureau, we will move to the next step, which would be a public hearing. We are on track to complete that process to update our rules by March. And I have my fingers crossed and I'm working hard. Next slide, please. So this is a brief illustration of what that process of changing our rules and updating them looks like. And in a nutshell, we want to move to electronic filing and completely do away with people notarizing documents and be able to expedite the processing of our cases. So we have completed the 3 arrows in red, and the next one would be the public hearing that we hope to have shortly. Thank you. Next slide, please. The process goes on. After that, when we get the confirmation and hold the public hearings, then there might be some refinement based on what we gather during the public hearing. And we have about 2 or 3 more steps to go after that. And we're looking forward to being able to file our rule changes in the Office of the Great Seal of the State of Michigan. Next slide, please. One of the things that the Legislative Liaison's Office does is to advise the Commission on some of the policies that come across our plate. I've developed bill analysis on critical race theory. We have bills in our state that would ban critical race theory, the 1619 curriculum, and stereotype race and gender variables in public schools. And those are Senate Bill 460 and House Bill 5097. So under Senate Bill 460, we couldn't talk about the enslaved Africans who arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 16. You'll see them in the painting on the left. We also really wouldn't know how to describe the people who arrived at Plymouth Rock a year later in 1620 on the Mayflower, because according to HB 5097, if we call them pilgrims, we'd be stereotyping them. So these are some really onerous and ludicrous bills. And I think that we really need to call the public's attention to them and stand for freedom of academic expression and be opposed to censorship and book banning. Next slide, please. The Michigan Department of Civil Rights is the lead agency for tracking 102 bills. They range from education to disabilities, discrimination, adoption, criminal justice, LGBTQ plus discrimination, anatomical gifts, arbitration, holidays. We have a system where we're able to use artificial intelligence to keep track of some of these bills. And we also have the task of appearing in front of the legislative committees when some of these bills are discussed. Next slide, please.
Time.
Recent activity included developing a comprehensive assessment of the proposed Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And we have shared that on the MDCR website with our stakeholders and posted it on social media. We presented comments in Lansing and Flint, as well as our executive director presented in Detroit. And we also had our office in Grand Rapids, represented by Gwen Moffitt, presented there. Next slide, please. We developed bill analysis for HB 4075 and HB 4076 that speak to dynamic character accessibility legislation. The symbol on the left is the international symbol that's currently used, and any new symbols like the one on the right have to provide persons with disabilities equal recognition and use as the current international symbol of accessibility. If it doesn't, there's a risk of losing federal funds. Enforcement of new signage in parking spaces, restrooms, seating for places of public accommodation is placed solely with the Michigan Civil Rights Commission and the Michigan Department of Civil Rights in these two bills. We feel that that would require approximately 249 new employees to adequately enforce this law in 83 counties. And the forecast conservative cost would be approximately $25 million. So we're really looking for this bill to be amended so that it is feasible. Next slide, please. We also are continuing to monitor SB 597 and 598 with the Legislative Affairs Office, in the Office of the Governor, the Department of Health and Human Services. And this is legislation that would privatize community mental health services. And there are negotiations that are ongoing on this legislation. And we're hoping to have an outcome that will not reduce access to health and mental health services to the disabled community, to people who are economically disadvantaged or otherwise unable to access healthcare readily. I think I have covered the waterfront. Thank you very much. I'd be glad to respond to any questions.
This is Chair Clayton. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Are there any questions for Dr. Reed from any commissioners?
Well, I have just one general question. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Bishop Combs, we can hear you.
Yeah, my signal is going in and out because I'm in a brick building.
Okay, yes, Bishop, did you have questions?
So I just want to make sure that I can be heard because my signal is going in and out.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Reed, for your presentation. Next, we are going to hear from Attorney Shanique Moss, Contract Compliance Division Report. And this is one of the ones that I want to say, I am very pleased that she's hired and in this position, and this is work that has begun within the department. The commission first had presentations on this, I believe, in our meeting in the summer of 2019, I think it was. And this is something we set as a priority at the end of 2019. 2020, we began looking for a new director, COVID hit. And so this kind of got pushed to the back burner for some of the work that we were doing. But I'm so pleased that last year we set it again as a priority for 2021. And thank you very much to Director Johnson, making sure that it happened. Looks like the work has started. And we look forward to hearing from Attorney Moss. Attorney Moss, the floor is yours. And why don't you do the same? Begin telling people a little bit about who you are, how you came into this position, and then you can get into your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Clayton. I'm Shanique Moss speaking. I started my legal career at the Attorney General's office. I was there for about 8.5 years, and then I went to Wayne County for about 2.5 years, where I actually had the privilege to work with Commissioner El-Hassan. After Wayne County, my second county commission, I worked with the governor's office as one of her deputy legal counsel, and I was in that role for 2.5 years prior to joining MDCR as the director of compliance in August. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Good afternoon to you, Chair Clayton, as well as the commissioners and others tuning in. I am so pleased to be able to provide you with a brief overview of MDCR's Office of Contract Compliance. The primary purpose of our compliance program is to ensure that we are fulfilling our statutory responsibilities under both the Elliott Larson Civil Rights and the Persons with Disabilities Civil Rights Act. We also want to promote equal employment opportunity in Michigan's contracting process, enable Michigan businesses to be more competitive in the marketplace by offering them certificates of compliance, and assist local units of government with their EEO compliance review of potential contractors. Next slide. Under the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, all state contracts must contain a covenant prohibiting contractors and subcontractors from discriminating against an employee or applicant on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, height, weight, or marital status. The Act also requires MDCR to monitor the awarding and execution of state contracts to ensure compliance. Next slide. Similarly, under the Persons with Disabilities Civil Rights Act, state contracts must contain a covenant prohibiting contractors and subcontractors from discriminating against employees and applicants on the basis of disability. Now, we're really excited about the revamp of the contract compliance program. Since MDCR's certificate of awardability process was eliminated some years ago, the contract compliance program focused solely on ensuring state contracts contained a covenant prohibiting discrimination against employees and applicants on the basis of the protected classes I mentioned. However, the new program will have 3 areas of focus, and you can forward the slide. First, one other time. think one more, sorry. First, the state contract compliance program. Second, the certificate of compliance program. And lastly, the local units of government, EEO compliance program. Under the state compliance program, the office will work with DTMB and the Attorney General's office to beef up the current non-discrimination clause contained in state contracts to ensure that contractors and subcontractors are also agreeing to additional requirements such as cooperating during any contract compliance review and providing a list with all instances where a complaint alleging employment discrimination was filed in a or administrative proceeding. The office will also randomly select contractors for more in-depth review to ensure compliance. Next, under the Certificate of Compliance program, the office will offer certificates of compliance to allow Michigan to be more competitive in the marketplace. EEO compliance certification certifies that a business is aware of EEO laws, best practices, and that no evidence of discrimination was found during the administrative review. And finally, under the local units of government EEO compliance program, the office will offer local units of government the opportunity to outsource their EEO contract compliance review of potential contractors at affordable rates. MDCR's budget permits us to charge and expend amounts received from local units of government for the purpose of developing and providing these contractual services. The importance of this area of focus comes into play with our proposed funding stream model. We are currently exploring ways to generate the fund stream to support the compliance program through monies received through contracted services provided to local units of government, cooperative agreements with other state departments and agencies, and monies received from the Certificate of Compliance program. While I am currently the sole employee of the office, we anticipate the addition of 2 program specialists, one to assist with the state contract compliance program, and the second to assist with the local units of government EEO compliance program. We are also in the process of developing an unpaid internship program for contract compliance. The additional staff will support the reviews, reporting, and training initiatives provided by the office. A few key milestones I would like to highlight finally are just by the end of the year, we will have finalized the program documents. We plan to begin hiring additional staff by the end of January 2022. We'll begin outreach and education by February 2022, and we will also implement the program by February 2022.
Time.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry, you can fast forward the slides. Sorry about that.
This is Chair Clayton. If we can stop the screen share, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Moss. Any questions from any commissioners? Or
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
yes, Commissioner Combs, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is the result of the work of the current executive director. I mean, is this, did this come about through those negotiations that he has had with the governor's office, as well as his strategic planning within the confines of MDCR? I'm asking the executive director that question. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, here I am.
Yes.
Would you repeat the question, sir? I was talking to my deputy director about something. Would you
Yeah,
repeat
the question is twofold. Number one, is this extraordinary presentation a result of your conversations and negotiations with the governor's office, as well as your current revision and execution of your strategic plan for the department?
Yes and yes.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, well, we had the conversation and you said you were going to move in that direction. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we're not suffering from amnesia here.
Right.
We realized that, you put some great work into that, as well as the previous presentation you gave with 12 points and Dr. Reed's presentation. So obviously it's just an example and a simplification that you know what you're doing and you're making us all look good.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate those kind words.
Oh, just the facts.
And thank you, Commissioner Combs. Thank you, Director. And again, Commissioner Combs, Commissioner Roberson, and Commissioner Lara, I want to acknowledge you, Commissioner Roberson. I believe you chair the Economic Equity Committee of the Commission, which again, we talked about some of this work beginning back in 2019. So, and then you picking it up when you all came on the commission this year. So thank you very much. Thank you, Attorney Moss, very much. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Next, we are going to hear from Danita Wimbush. And she is the director of a newly created division, the Education Division.
Hello?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Wimbush. We will ask you to do the same as we asked our other presenters to do, to tell the commission and those watching a little bit about yourself, how you came into your position. I believe you already were in the department, and this is a promotion and a new leadership role for you. So we'll hear a little bit about that, and then you can go into your presentation.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and to all the commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. This is Danita L. Wimbush speaking, and I am a member of the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. I've been a part of the team for 10 years now. I came from the outside as an automotive executive between two automotive industries, where I spent most of my tenure as a trainer, manager, coach for advertising and marketing over the years. During my time here at the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, I hired in as an investigator and promoted to the record center manager, where I became the liaison between our agency and EEOC. And as of October 4th of this year, I was named the education director, and I am absolutely tickled pink about it. So thank you for that opportunity to share. Slides, please. Thank you. Again, this is Danita speaking, and I, along with Jackie DeBersher, training coordinator Anthony Ayani, department analyst, we make up the newly formed Education Division, and I must tell you, we are off and running to a great start. Much like MDCR in our vision statement, is to work in tandem to uphold the mission to promote equity through engagement and education and enforcement. Next slide. So we're intending to do this by bringing consistency and continuity to the MDCR brand through awareness, training, and community collaborations. Next slide, please. The Education Division, or ED, as I like to refer to it, is responsible for assessing and identifying both professional and personal training and development opportunities for all staff in MDCR, agency-wide. Next slide. We are truly excited that we've had some things going on currently through our department. And one of the things that we're most proud of is our spring summer 2021 internship program, which has concluded, and we are currently in the process of interviewing and selecting a next class of interns for our winter 2022 program that will run from January to May 2022. Next slide. In addition to that, we're continuing on with our internally planned programs. We are working to develop a catalog system of all of our trainings, keeping an up-to-date link of our calendar of events, and enhancing and building upon a new hiring orientation process. Next slide. Additionally, we are also looking to formalize and work on a mentor/job shadow program that will be beneficial to all staff members. Next slide. Now, here's where we get to the good part. We have been working hard behind the scenes and relaunching our department intranet. as well as working to migrate our current website from one platform to another. We are currently in the throes of migrating from Vignette to Sitecore by mid-December. And I have to pause here, Madam Chair, to give kudos and thank yous to Jackie Debashire, who has been working for the past 18 months to ensure that we get to this mark. And I will tell you, we are on target to meet the mid-December goal. The other thing that we have been working on is the rebranding of the Relentless Tour, which is now known as Together United, our bullying initiative, in which Mr. Ayani works in the community and has trained more than 2,500 students thus far. Next slide. So what's on the horizon? We are elated to tell you that we are in collaborative partnership with Wayne State University's Law School Damon J. Keith Center. The department will host 6 to 10 law students in the summer of 2022 as a part of a partnership. And in that, our very own Deputy Director, Kimberly Woolridge, will serve as an adjunct professor and will teach a class one night per week, along with Mr. Dan Hellman, coordinator at the law school. These students will post up about 150 hours over a 10-week time frame, and they will be working on actual cases and will be reporting to the extern supervisor, Marcelina Trevino. On the horizon also is a civil rights summit that we had planned for February 2022. We will begin discussing the particulars of that in the very near future. Next slide. Strategic partnerships. One of the things we like to do is establish with partnerships with colleges and universities across the state of Michigan, as well as becoming a part of the dialogue talk with the Divine Nine, the National Panhellenic Council. Next slide. In addition to building upon what has already been laid in terms of enhancing our partnerships with the universities for the deaf and tribal communities. And next slide. That concludes my presentation. I thank you for allowing me to give a synoptic overview of what the Education Division has been doing in its first 30 days. Are there any questions?
This is Chair Clayton speaking. Danita, thank you so very much, And I'm going to say what Director Johnson has heard me say numerous times. He's probably going to be upset with me for saying it again, but now after listening to your presentation, I just believe it more even strongly. I just think Education Division doesn't do your division justice, that title, especially now seeing all the work. I learned things that you all are doing that I didn't even know came under your division. So I'd see it more like a strategic partnership division, but I'll just put that, just say that again. But excellent. And I took some notes on a couple of things that you talked about that you all are doing, the 2 pieces with the HBCUs and the Panhellenic Council Divine Nine. I think those are excellent. That's something the department, to my knowledge, has not done before, and especially wanting to connect with Pensole and the Lewis College of Business. That is very good. Something else that is very, very near and dear to me that I've talked about, I think for the 2 years I've been chair, it kind of took off, it got a little slower, but I'm glad to see that it's picking back up again, and that is the internship program. I'm very, very passionate, believe that internships can do a lot to help someone. I'm sitting where I'm sitting today and doing the work that I'm doing because of an internship that I had with Barbara Rose Collins back at Wayne State. So that is excellent. Took a couple of other notes on the work that you all are doing. Director Johnson had told us about the externship with the Wayne State Law School. That was when we talked about that, and I'm so glad that he kind of took that, ran with it, and really made it happen. So that's something else been trying to get off the ground for a minute. So glad to see that Director Johnson was able to make that happen. And just sounds like there's some exciting work that's going to be going on in your newly created division. So thank you. It sounds like we have the right person leading that effort too. So thank you. And Commissioner Lara, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Danita, thank you very much. This is a really, really great start focusing not just on internal education, but also on partnerships with universities, as well as the Divine Nine, as well as Gallaudet and Rochester Institute of Technology, and the Keweenaw Bay Ojibwe community colleges and the different tribal colleges. However, I do note that there is some kind of a outreach or missing with the Latino or Latina communities.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that certain colleges and universities, I'm in Grand Rapids, so I know that Grand Valley State University has a very specific focused approach to Latino and Latina students. And perhaps it might be something that you might want to look into for establishing those partnerships as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Lara. Absolutely, we'll do that.
Yes, and I can connect you with the appropriate people.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, this is a great start. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lara. I agree with you 100%. Any other comments or questions from any other commissioners? Okay, so there are a couple of things that make me sad about this being my last meeting and my leaving the commission. This is one of them, not being able to see well, I guess from the outside I can see the work, but not being able to support you, because I just think this is very, very exciting work that you and the division are taking on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next, we are going to have our Attorney General report from Assistant AG David Cannon.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. David Cannon, Assistant Attorney General, and good evening to Chair Clayton and all of the commissioners here. It's my pleasure to be here today. Written report was submitted by Attorney General Dana Nessel, and so there's a little to add to that. It is included in tonight's agenda at report 11. If I might mention two items from there, item 5 is, of course, the Rauschworld case in the Michigan Supreme Court. We did submit our brief in that regard after consultation with the department, and that actually is included at the end of our report. So for the pleasure of the commissioners, if you wish to read that. The additional item then would be item 5, which is on page 64 of tonight's agenda. It's the Stephen Korn and Park Place of Northville case. That matter in the report, it indicates that we're waiting for the interrogatory answers. In fact, those have been received, and they are in the hands of the department now for furthering their investigation. That's essentially all I have, subject to any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Attorney Cannon. Any questions from any commissioners on any of the reports that we received? We received in our meeting packet as well, the AG's report. Any questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Commissioner Combs, yes.
Yes, for the Attorney General, I have an inquiry about, she spoke to the commission when she was elected approximately 4 years ago, and we had a conversation about the agency's focus on crimes against children and women and crimes concerning human trafficking. And her thoughts were, certainly prior to COVID-19, that she would be expanding the departments or the agency's outreach in those areas and trying to become more aggressive in addressing issues of crimes against children and crimes against women and this issue of human trafficking. Do you have any updates from the Attorney General on that matter, or on those matters, I should say?
On those matters, thank you. We do, Attorney General Nessel does have a very active program in the area of human trafficking, which includes, of course, crimes against women and children, particularly under that title. General prosecutions otherwise are often handled by the county prosecuting attorney, although the Attorney General is available. But on the human trafficking level, we do have a very active program, and I know this was mentioned once previously when I first spoke before this honorable commission, and it was an indication that perhaps you would like a bit more of a detailed report. If you would like perhaps the Assistant Attorney General that's responsible for human trafficking crimes prosecutions to appear, we could arrange for that. Or if you would like the Attorney General, if the commission would like to invite her, I would certainly pass that invitation along, and then she could report on the progress that has been made in that regard. It's a very active program.
Yeah, it certainly would be on, I would imagine the commission would appreciate nothing less than a written report, if she has one that can be submitted to the commission. I mean, if she's busy, we're closing out the year. I don't know what kind of time she'd have. Right. And then next year is election year. So if it fits her schedule during the election year, I certainly, whether I'm on the commission or not, would speak that it would be a good gesture on her part for civil rights in general. And if not, the written report at least would be in the record of the Civil Rights Commission and Department.
So this is Chair Clayton. Bishop Combs, are you making a motion that the commission formally request that written report from Attorney General Nessel regarding human trafficking? Is that a formal motion that you're making?
Yes, ma'am, my leader, I am.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
I will second it.
Okay, that motion has been seconded by Commissioner Corvo. So the record reflect that we will, that we're formally requesting that from AG Nessel, knowing that it is getting close to the end of the year, but if at all possible, that will be made available to the commission by the end of the year, before the Christmas holiday. But we'll do a formal request from the department, have the department do that and get that to the Attorney General, if not this week, definitely by the end of next week.
That will be absolutely fine, Chair Clayton.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for AG Cannon? Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and you know what? And I just want to tell you, thank you very much. Was it just this year, or were you also with us in 2020? I can't recall when you started joining us.
It was just this year, actually.
Okay, all right, okay, well, thank you very much. You know, Ron Robinson has been the Attorney General representative for the commission for, I want to say like 30 something. I know it's been a very, very long time, very long time. So thank you for stepping in when he went on leave and jumping right in and never missing a beat. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It has really been my pleasure at working with you, Madam Chair, and I'm honored to do this, and I'll be happy to proceed along those lines.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And I believe I didn't see him previously when he raised his hand, but Director Johnson, was there something you wanted to add regarding the Education Division?
Yes, thank you, Chair Clayton. I appreciate that. I just wanted to sort of tie all the connect the dots together for the commission, something I said earlier, and to make sure that they're understanding the full breadth, depth of the Education Division. Dina did a very good job talking about internal development and strategic partnerships, but she's also collecting all the training. She's also collecting all the trainings that are done throughout the division to create a menu, so to speak, of external trainings that we now conduct. But I've never been centralized, and she's creating that even in our intranet. Now, once she does that, you will be able now to take that and market that along with Shanique's effort to go out and get local units to do contract compliance work with us. We can sell both things. We can sell the implicit bias trainings and all that we do, along with the contract compliance work. And all of these things are allowed for us under the boilerplate language in our budget. There's two ways of us getting money. One, through a straight up appropriations, asking them to increase our base. The others take advantage of the boilerplate language in our budget that allows us to bring in extra money through private donations, through education, through grants, or things of that nature. So the plan, and then again, to increase the work that the monies that we get through our federal contracts through increased staff. So the plan is again to try to bring in some of that $1.9 million that's hanging out there, sort of low hanging fruit, through selling our education work, through perhaps getting more grants to boost up our community education work, and then through our contract compliance work, which we contract with local governments. I just wanted to sort of connect those dots and bring all that together for people so they understand the depth of these divisions and how we intend to work collaboratively, not only to educate, enforce, and engage, but also to bring some extra revenue into the department. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, Director. This is Chair Clayton speaking, and thank you, Director Johnson, because earlier during your presentation, you made the reference regarding seeking the additional monies from the general fund, but it's also good to hear that you also are looking at other ways to bring in even more revenue and financial resources to the department, because you don't always know what you're going to get with the state budget. You can ask, but you never know what you're actually going to get. So I've always been a big proponent of grants and what other financial resources are out there to help supplement the public dollars that you get. So that's very good to hear. So thank you very much for that effort. Thank you.
Thank you for that time. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay. Any other comments or any from the commissioners regarding our Attorney General's report or anything that Director Johnson just spoke on? Okay, next item on our agenda is item number 9, which is commission business. First item is the chair's report, which I will do, and then Commissioner Hassan, if that's okay with you, this is where we will do the amendment to the agenda. We can either do it now or we can do it at the end under closing comments. Do you have a preference?
I just assumed you'd put it under other items under commission business.
Perfect. That's even better. Okay, thank you so much. So just a few words that I want to say. My last meeting, I'm going to do my absolute best to get through this without getting emotional. I've done good so far, so we'll see. We all know that I'm too vain to let my mascara run, so I think that'll help me to stay. I wrote down some words just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I'm probably going to, but charge it to my head, not my heart. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, my term ends on December 31st, and I did not seek reappointment. It's hard to believe that 4 years has passed so quickly, and I'm honored to have served the residents of the great state of Michigan. It's been a wonderful 4 years, and I'm so pleased with the work accomplished by this commission in the past 2 years that I've been chair. The department is working on the 2020-2021 annual report that will provide detail of the accomplishments of the commission, but there are several things that I'd like to highlight now. I'm sure many of you will recall we began 2020 searching for a new director. We thought that was just going to take us a couple of months, but after several attempts, the third time in August was actually the charm, and we selected James White, former DPD assistant chief. My dad is a retired Detroit police officer, and he told me that being a police officer never leaves you. It becomes who you are. James White proved that to be true when he returned to DPD as chief less than a year later. Mayor Duggan made him an offer that he could not refuse. But during those 8 months, Director White left a significant impact on the department with a new strategic plan and staff restructuring. Since June of this year, the department has been under the outstanding leadership of Director John Johnson and Deputy Director Kimberly Woolridge. They both know one of the things that I like to boast about under their leadership is that this is the first time we've had attorneys in both roles of leadership. This is exceptional and unprecedented, and I just like to lift that up every chance I get. The commission also experienced a complete shift in our meetings in 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit. During my 2 years as being chair, I've actually only chaired 1 regular meeting and 2 special meetings in person. Every other meeting we've had these past 2 years has been virtual. Our public attendance and outreach for the meetings has significantly increased due to the Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube platforms, and I would encourage the commission to continue this accessibility as allowed by law once you begin meeting in person. In September 2020, we released the Education Equity in Michigan report, which culminated the work of the 2018 and 2019 statewide education hearings. And after the diligent work by the commission, just 1 year later, which again, very proud of this, 1 year later, we were able to implement and approve 6 of the 10 recommendations that were in that report. I'm extremely proud of the resource guide to developing a school equity plan, which is one of the report's recommendations. This phenomenal piece of work was done in collaboration with the Council for Government and Education on Equity and Inclusion and was led by Alfredo Hernandez, the director of the newly created DEI division. We began this year with a first for the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. Representatives from all of the state's ethnic commissions and the Women's Commission joined us for our meeting in January of 2021. This had not been done even when those commissions were under the leadership of the Department of Civil Rights. We also completely restructured our commission retreat. For my first 3 years on the commission, the information presented was exactly the same. Literally exactly the same for the first 3 years. This year, we renamed it to the Instructional Retreat, and the department presentations were elevated and broadened. This is a format that I think should be beneficial for many years to come for the new commissioners coming in 2022 and beyond. After delay due to the COVID pandemic and the director search, we finally began work on increasing economic equity on state contracts and revising the administrative rules. As you heard from the division reports, this work is ongoing and is progressing very well. The last 2 years of the commission have been the most prolific of my 4 years as a member. We have taken public positions on numerous pieces of state and federal legislation, especially those dealing with voting rights. We've weighed in on local and national matters of racial and social injustice and advanced diversity, equity, and inclusion in our day jobs. I always like to make reference of our day jobs because we all have the day jobs to pay our bills, but we also work very, very hard on this commission, which does not pay us anything, by the way, in case anyone did not know that. All of our statements, resolutions, and any work product can be found on the department's website. I encourage anyone who wants to see, as I talk about the great work that we have done in these past 2 years, to take a look at that website and look at the dates of the statements and the reports, and you'll see that we've accomplished quite a bit in these 2 years. Lastly, there are many people, past and present, on the commission and in the department to whom I owe a great deal of gratitude. To ensure I don't miss anyone, I will be sending personal thank you notes later. But today, I do want to thank Governor Rick Snyder, who appointed me in 2018. And I also want to thank Governor Gretchen Whitmer for allowing me to complete these past 3 years. I also want to thank my vice chair, Zina El-Hassan, from whom I have learned so much. Something funny happened last week. She and I were at an event together and we took a picture. And when I looked at the picture, this is rare because I'm tall and I wear heels. So it's rare for me to be in a picture with someone who's actually taller than me. So when I saw that, I noticed it and I sent her a quick note and I said, you know, not only do I look up to her figuratively, I also look up to her literally as well. Her thoughtful demeanor and razor sharp legal mind are the perfect complement to my sometimes assertive and idealistic approach to the commission. I know this current commission, the new members coming in are going to continue the exemplary work that we've been doing. There's something that each of you has brought to this commission. I've enjoyed working with you. I've enjoyed talking to you. Some of you I have more interaction with others, but I just think that the work that we have done this past year with our new commissioners, and then even last year with the commissioners that came on, it's outstanding. And if you think about the work that we've been able to do during this COVID time, all of it being done remotely. And I will say it again, I think the work that we've done these past 2 years with the commissioners that we have, it's just something that I'm very, very proud to have been a part of, very proud to have been a part of. Again, it's been my honor and my pleasure to serve as the chair of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. I also know the department is being left in very good hands with Director Johnson and the direction. I'm so glad again to see the direction that he's taken the department now. I think the department is finally going to be exactly what 60 years ago when the commission was created and what they envisioned for the department to be. So it's good to see the track the department is on. So those are my words. I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Okay. Next is before we get to the other items, we have our nominating committee, which I will be appointing. As everyone knows, in January of each year, the first meeting, the new executive board is selected, and that consists of the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. Very pleased to say that in the 4 years I've been on the commission, there has been a unified slate that has been presented each January And that slate of 3 people has gone through no issues, no challenges, no trying to, kind of, garner votes, what have you. There's been consensus. And so hopefully that will happen for 2022 when you all select your executive board. But the nominating committee generally consists of outgoing commissioners because, of course, we're outgoing. So we have no skin in the game as to who is actually going to be on that. So just to keep it simple for this year, I don't know if Commissioner Combs is going to be going out or not. I know his term ends as mine does in December. So the nominating committee will be Commissioner Combs, myself, and then Vice Chair El Hassan, just because she is already on the executive committee anyway, and the 3 of us have worked together. So that will be the nominating committee before the end of the year. We will have talked to everyone on the commission to see who is interested in serving in a leadership role, and that slate will be put together. And Vice Chair El Hassan, who will be chairing the January meeting until you take your vote for a chair, will then present that slate to the full commission at your January meeting. So any questions from anyone on that part? Okay, not seeing or hearing none. Our next item under commission business is other items. Do we have any other items?
Just the addition to the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this is the addition to the agenda. We made the amendment comments regarding Chair Clayton.
Your farewell. Yes, I know it's not easy to stomach or say. And Commissioner Combs, I just don't know yet. So we'll wait to hear news from you. But for today, I just want to honor our chair and take just a few moments. There aren't sufficient words for me to really explain her term with the commission. But briefly, where do I even begin, right? You have been integral to the important advances we have made, particularly in the areas of education equity and the work that was done in advancing the rights of the residents of Flint through the work that was done by this commission in developing the Flint Crisis Report. As was mentioned by Chair Clayton, board service is one of the toughest volunteer roles of all, and you performed it with dedication and tenacity. You distinguished yourself as a judicious steward of this commission and never flinched in the face of difficult decisions regarding public positions that this commission was asked to comment on. A famous activist once said, "Wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it." You proved to be both wise and virtuous. As a commission, we would not have been able to accomplish without your tireless time and resources, all that this commission has done over the course of your term. As you look back on your time with us, please know that our achievements would not have been made possible without you at the helm. On both a professional and personal level, I am grateful for the time that we spent together, and I have learned so much from you. Thank you for your service, and I know that we will be in touch. Good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
And I offer the baton to any of my colleagues on the commission who want to say a few words.
Commissioner Lara, excuse me, Commissioner Lara.
Thank you. I echo Commissioner El Hassan's comments. Speaking as a newbie to this commission, wondering what did I let myself in for? It just really, really aligns so well with my personal beliefs. And it's so wonderful to see the leadership of this commission being very focused, as well as being able to, I've seen you gain the best of each of us as we go through and do the work that we do on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan. So thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lara. And if anyone did not get a chance to see the conversation on critical race theory, what it is and what it isn't, that was hosted by Commissioner Lara last week, please be sure to reach out and get a copy of that link either from her or from me so we can send that to you, because again, that was a great piece of work that was put together. The topic was very timely, and I loved how she had the East meets West conversation on that topic. So if you didn't have a chance to participate in that, please take a look at that link and ask us to send it to you.
Thank you, Chair, Madam Chair. That's an outgrowth of what you called our day jobs. It's something that we do, and thank you so much for your help, assistance in that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Or are we moving on now to?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Combs, we can hear you. Looks like you're muted again. You're muted, Commissioner Combs. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
You can?
Yes.
Okay, if you can hear me, I'm speaking obviously extemporaneously. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention relative to your chair ladyship or your chairwomanship, and that is, I think it was George Bush that said the number one civil rights in the 21st century is equality and equitable education for all. And so, I mean, I do have to concede that the work done by the Commission on Education probably ranks at the top of the list. The second thing is you were kind enough, thoughtful enough to allow Ken Harris and other chambers to come in and make their presentations to the Commission regarding contract work with the state and the issuing of contracts equitably throughout the 83 counties where they're receiving federal dollars that are under EEOC and federal affirmative action guidance. So that has been, to me, relatively instrumental in the strategy of John Johnson and Jerome Reed in working with this governor and her having the vision, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, to run on the platform of equity in education and then call for equity across the board in healthcare and other areas of service delivery in our state. Obviously, this will be a benefit. Hopefully, she will find a way to marshal the successes and communicate them to the members of the state of Michigan that it matters with. Those are two of the major things I thought. And I thought that even with this most recent initiative that was presented, it was very kind of you and John Johnson and Jerome Reed and Allison to concede that there needed to be some deeper work done, a little more research into the issues of Senate Bill 597 and 598, because what I'm hearing is John Johnson's on this particular Zoom call is that it is a rumor that there is a compromise in the works. And if in fact this compromise that is in the works becomes a reality, quite frankly, the governor will have to get credit for one of the most extraordinary political victories in the history of Michigan politics. And so what I can't really talk to the detail about it on this particular commentary, but there are a lot of things that have been accomplished in a short period of time by the commission and by the genius of John Johnson and Jerome Reed. And one can only hope that there's tenure and longevity with regard to their leadership for us and for the future of the state of Michigan. That's my extemporaneous comment.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Combs. You talked about the work of the Education Equity Report. And I always like to give credit where credit is due. And the work regarding education equity on this commission actually began after the Flint Water Report was done, and the commissioners at that time, and they realized that there could be long-term effects for the students growing up in Flint who the impact of the water crisis might not be seen for, many years to come on the young children. And so that's how it kind of got into that education equity piece. But there were two educators on the commission at that time who really helped lead this work. And one is Rasha Damaski and the other is Mumtaz Haq. So just want to acknowledge both of those women too, that got us to the point where we are today with our education report and the resource guide. And I thank you all for your comments regarding my serving as chair. It's funny, God always gives us what we need, even if we don't know at the time that we need it. And it was because of Brenda Jones, the outgoing Detroit City Council president, who I worked for at the time, who began to have to lead the city council meetings virtually. And I was able to watch and see how she did it. I don't know if there's anyone on this call right now who was working on the commission at the time, but Sylvia will remember, Mary will remember. I asked the staff and MDCR to watch a city council formal session and said, we want our commission meetings to be just like that. And that's what they did. And that's what got us to here today. So again, I just think it is so important to talk about the great work we've been able to do virtually. And I'm also thankful for all the meetings that I've had to chair. My Zoom has never gone out. You have to be thankful for the little things. And so that is something to be very thankful for, that it's never gone out. So, okay. Thank you all so much. So now we are done with commission business. We are now moving to item number 10, which is new business. And we do have 2 resolutions that are up for voting today. The first one, I'm going to ask if Vice Chair El-Hassan will read the resolution in support of fair maps and in opposition to minority vote dilution. And it looks like she might have stepped away for a moment. So we'll just reverse the order of these resolutions that we have. And Commissioner Lara, if you are ready, I'll ask you to read the resolution in support of civil rights, academic freedom, and in opposition to censorship.
Oh, I was here. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Go
okay,
ahead.
all right, then we'll keep in order. And so if you will please read the resolution in support of fair maps and in opposition to minority vote dilution.
Thank you. The title of the resolution being Michigan Civil Rights Commission Resolution in support of fair maps and in opposition to minority vote dilution. Whereas the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act authorizes the Michigan Civil Rights Commission to safeguard the constitutional and legal guarantees against discrimination. The ELCRA protects anyone having minimal contacts in Michigan, not only citizens, such as the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Michigan Constitutional Amendment that created the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And whereas the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides, quote, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, end quote. Racial, ethnic, and language minorities must be allowed to cast a meaningful ballot and not have their vote diluted. And whereas the U.S. Supreme Court in Thornburg versus Gingles, 1986, set 3 measures to evaluate Voting Rights Act violations of minority groups. A minority group must demonstrate it is large enough and compact enough to constitute a majority in an electoral district. A minority group must demonstrate it is politically united. A minority group must demonstrate the majority group historically votes sufficiently as a group to defeat the minority group's preferred candidate. Coalitions of Black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, and other, quote, and those who identify with, quote, 2 or more, end quote, racial groups have had the ability to come together and elect candidates of their choice. And whereas if a map results in a minority's vote being diluted, it is a violation of the Voting Rights Act. A majority minority district is a district in which a racial minority group or groups comprise a majority of the district's total population. And whereas maps for congressional districts, the Michigan State Senate, and the Michigan House of Representatives are drawn by the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, MCRC. Therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan Civil Rights Commission urges the MCRC to use statistical data to compare Michigan's 22 majority minority districts, 17 of which are predominantly Black, with the percentages in the 9 maps proposed on November 5th, 2021, for a 45-day public comment to determine if they comply with the unanimous Supreme Court decision in Thornburg versus Gingles, 1986. And be it further resolved that the Michigan Civil Rights Commission urges the MCRC to take all necessary action to ensure that there is no minority vote dilution and or violations of the Voting Rights Act in the 9 maps proposed by the MCRC. And be it finally resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Attorney General Dana Nessel, and the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Thank you.
This is Chair Clayton. Thank you very much, Vice Chair El-Hassan. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Seeing and hearing no discussion. I'm not missing anyone.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, Commissioner Combs, we can hear you. Do you have discussion on the resolution?
Move for the adoption.
Okay, a motion has been made to for the adoption of the resolution by Commissioner Combs. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Commissioner Hassan. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none. I'm sorry. No, that's a roll call. Can I have the clerk call the roll? I'm so sorry. Not reading my own notes. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Combs,
Support.
Commissioner Gasco Bentley, Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner Carvo,
Yes.
Commissioner Coruscant. The ayes have it, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, this is Chair Clayton. Did you call Commissioner Lara?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Commissioner Lara.
Support.
The ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. That resolution will be adopted. Next, now, Commissioner Lara, will you please read the Michigan Civil Rights Resolution in support of civil rights, academic freedom, and in opposition to censorship?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution in support of civil rights, academic freedom, and in opposition to censorship. Whereas civil rights shall be those guaranteed by law and the Constitution, including but not limited to the areas of equal protection of the laws, employment, education, housing, and public accommodations. And whereas recent proposed legislation that bans critical race theory provides for censorship of educators and gives students an inaccurate and incomplete account of the history of the United States. And whereas the revised school code gives each Board of Education powers and assigned responsibilities such as setting the curricula and courses taught in the schools. And whereas critical race theory sees the role of law historically upholding racial discrimination as well as other discrimination by gender, social class, and sexual orientation. And whereas the Michigan Department of Education Superintendent, Dr. Michael Rice, has advised the State Board of Education at its August 10th, 2021 meeting that, quote, critical race theory, unquote, is not part of the pre-K to 12 curriculum in Michigan public schools, and race and racism are integral parts of our country's history and should most assuredly be part of a comprehensive social studies curriculum. And educators have not just the right, but the responsibility to teach the breadth of U.S. history, and U.S. history includes race and racism. And whereas the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects teachers and students who have First Amendment rights to freedom of speech in the classroom, and whereas people in the U.S. are a collection of many different cultures, ethnicities, languages, and races with a rich and varied history, good and bad, and whereas academic freedom is fundamental to fact-based, historically accurate knowledge delivered by trained educational professionals. No facts, ethnicities, languages, races, and cultures should be removed from history. And whereas Senate Bill 460 bans critical race theory and the 1619 project curriculum, and House Bill 5097 censors classroom speech and classifies race and gender variables as, quote, stereotypes, unquote. Therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan Civil Rights Commission supports academic freedom in Michigan public schools and is strongly opposed to Senate Bill 460 and House Bill 5097, any and all legislation that promotes censorship and book banning. And be it finally resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to the Honorable Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the House Speaker, the House Minority Leader, Dr. Michael Rice, State Superintendent, the State Board of Education, the House Education Committee, the House School Aid and Department of Education Appropriations Subcommittee, the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Minority Leader, the Senate Education and Career Readiness Committee, and the Senate K-12 and Department of Education Appropriations Subcommittee.
Thank you, Commissioner Lara. Is there any discussion on the resolution?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Combs.
Yeah, I want to make it clear up front that I believe in critical race history. I do not believe in critical race theory. I don't think the theory is a legitimate terminology in terms of the etymology of the word. It's inappropriate to use the word theory when the bill that Dr. Reed researched that Jennifer Granholm signed in action, it may or may not have had the, shall we say, the synergy to inspire the Michigan Education Association to include race in its curriculum, even though she certainly encouraged so when she signed whatever bill she signed. Of course, Dr. Reed had to speak to that, and that was many years ago. But I will not be voting for critical race theory. I'll be abstaining. I want to make that clear up front, because I would prefer that it be called critical race history. Teach the history, teach the facts, and let the chips fall where they may.
Okay, thank you, Bishop Combs. Any other comments or questions? And Dr. Reed, just question for my own edification. Critical race theory, that is the name that is used for the theory, and that how old is that name? I mean, it's a number of years. Am I correct? How many years back is that?
Almost 40, goes back to the 1970s.
Okay, thank you. And just so it can be clear for everyone, it's not that our resolution is supporting critical race theory. What our resolution is doing is supporting academic freedom for teachers so that they are able to teach history accurately and factually, and not remove any parts of history that might make some uncomfortable, such as ethnicities or race or gender. And so we're, and then also too, I believe there's a part where our resolution speaks to banning certain books. I believe there's some place where Beloved came up the tone, wanting, so not banning books, but also supporting that teachers have the academic freedom to teach history as it actually occurred, truthfully and honestly, without adding anything, without removing anything. Is that the gist of our resolution, Dr. Reed?
Yes,
or
ma'am.
anything you wanted to add to it, since you so eloquently wrote that? Okay.
No,
All
I
right.
think it's clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Besides that, any other discussion on the resolution? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Lara. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Hassan. Dr. Reed, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Combs,
Abstain.
Commissioner Gasco Bentley, Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner Carvo,
Support.
Commissioner Lara.
Support.
The ayes have it, Madam Chair.
So that is 5 in support, 1 abstaining, and 2 absent. Okay, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That resolution has been adopted. Thank you very much. And again, Dr. Reed, thank you so much for your work on both of those resolutions, both outstanding pieces of work. A couple more items on our agenda. The next one is to approve the meeting schedule for 2022. All commissioners should have gotten those dates at our meeting in September. Just want to make sure that they are okay on everyone's calendar. And if anyone has any issues with that, January 24th, March 28th, May 23rd, July 25th, September 19th, which is the third Monday due to 9/26 being the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and November 28th. All of those are the meeting dates. I believe they're the fourth Monday except for September. And is that, yeah, and 2022.
Commissioner Al-Hassan moves to approve.
Okay, that's motion has been made by Commissioner Hassan. Is there support?
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner Combs. I don't think we need to do a roll call on that one. So, yep. So, hearing no objection, those dates will be approved for 2020.
Common consent.
Okay. The last item is, this again is something that happens at the last meeting of each year, and that is when the commission takes a vote on their priorities for the upcoming year. This is not anything that is locked in stone. This is just to provide some direction for when the commission gets started in January. Of course, anything can be subject to change, as we saw in 2020 when priorities were set and they didn't happen until 2021. So the items that are set as priorities for 2022, a couple of them continue on from 2021, and then there's some new ones that are being added. The first one is a continuation, education equity, which will be expanded to safe and healthy learning environments, literacy and civility. The second is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is an expansion of the economic equity that we have, which now it also includes LGBTQ rights, AD accessibility, and racial disparities. 3 is a new one, and this is environmental justice. And this is taking a look at some of the water issues we have going on in the state. And then also most recently, there are several issues that have, Commissioner Lara sent me the article last week about what's happening in Detroit near the Jefferson plant. And there are a lot of air quality issues that are going on in communities that are near manufacturing areas. And then the fourth one is voting rights. And that is the foundation of a democracy, and that is a civil right. So those will be the 4 focus areas. Normally there are 3, but there are 4 this year, well, going into 2022. Any discussion on those 4 priorities? And just so everyone knows, those priorities were established based upon input from the sitting commissioners. May I have a motion to approve the 2022 priorities for the Michigan Civil Rights Commission?
Move to approve.
Okay, moved by
Well, I mean, were we not, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Combs.
Yeah, was there any consideration in carrying over our discussions on bills 597 and 598, I think it is?
So
they're on the agenda for today.
Yes, Commissioner Combs. Generally what happens is they're not specific items such as the legislation. That legislation would fall under, if you want to put it under one of these topics, or it would be someplace else. But I think I sent out at least 2 to 3 emails asking commissioners for comments what they wanted to have listed as priorities. I don't recall getting that from you. Now, because that is so specific, if there's an area, and again, I will not be here, so this is up to other commissioners if you want to add that piece by itself, or would that just be part of, because there are other pieces of work that the commission has started this year that will carry on into the new year. So I leave that open to current commissioners, how you would like to handle it.
Yeah, you're asking if there's anything else. I have no premonition as to whether or not I'll be reappointed one way or the other, but I'm saying that if you're asking if there's anything else to be added for consideration, my thoughts would be and recommendation would be to add that to the agenda for at least consideration.
So are you saying add, just for clarity, Commissioner Combs, are you saying add just those 2 Senate bills as your own separate topics?
Yeah,
so there are 5 priorities versus
yes, there'll be 5 priorities if you add that. And that would be in that area of the bills of 597 and 598 and the discussions that we had on that, because we have recorded discussions on that.
So how would you like to, looking at the format that we have for the other 4, how would you, what motion are you making to have that added as a fifth priority?
I'm just suggesting that, that particular item be added as a fifth item on the agenda. To continue monitoring and review of bills 597 and 598 by the commission.
Commissioner Lara, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, just a point of clarification. If Commissioner Combs could refresh my memory as to what specifically those two bills are, rather than just referring to them by their number.
Well, on the agenda, Commissioner Laura, you will see that in the presentation given by Dr. Reed, he's been attending the hearings in the Senate on those bills that are an effort to remove behavioral health from the 40 plus CMHs in the 83 counties across the state of Michigan and to privatize behavioral health, creating a Holocaust. I hate to use that term to offend any Jewish brothers, but creating a Holocaust in the elimination of jobs, professions, and other opportunities in all communities, and particularly, namely, adversely affecting the minority community. And of course, we've already had the conversation that 31 particular organizations and agencies have come out against the bill. And in addition to that, the NAACP, state NAACP has issued a resolution against the two bills, and the national is in consideration of issuing a position as well. So, I mean, it's already in our narrative in terms of the things that we've discussed. And I'm simply saying very simply that if there's room to add a fifth one, my suggestion would be to add it as a fifth item.
Thank you, Commissioner Combs, for that explanation. I just wanted to be certain that my recollection of what those bills were matching what you had just mentioned, and they do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Lara. Thank you, Commissioner Combs. And Commissioner Combs, just since we are refreshing everyone's memory regarding this topic, I believe maybe in our September meeting, this might have come up, but do you want to further explain for the rest of the commission how you would be directly impacted by this legislation?
As I indicated in writing to you, that the legislation would enrich me, but it would in fact decimate the minority community with regard to jobs. Now, how is it that this legislation would enrich me? It would remove the CMHs, and it would cause behavioral health organizations to deal directly with the nonprofit private organizations that currently do business with the CMHs. And so it's been sold to the provider networks that those dollars that they're claiming are not being passed through for programming would then be enhanced, and all of our per diems with regard to what we do to take care of persons with developmental disabilities and mental illness would be enhanced so that we could expand our operations, in as much as the argument is that program dollars are being set on by the CMHs in bank accounts and not being passed through. So again, I'm putting my neck out here, I can assure you, to take this leadership role and to fight the Republicans in my party on this issue, in as much as they have coalesced and solidified themselves to try to push this privatization issue. So,
might I say, Chair, if I
yes, Vice Chair Hassan, I just wanted to say thank you, Commissioner Combs. I just wanted to, again, have that on the record in the public meeting, because I know what you emailed to me, but I thought it was important for everyone here and then those listening to be able to see. Yes, Vice Chair Hassan.
If I can just, and maybe this is just a matter of semantics, I recognize that the 4 items we currently have listed are priorities for 2022. And so those are lifted up as new items that we will be looking at in 2022 and determining how we want to act as a commission as it relates to those 4 topics. The acts and the bills that you are suggesting are already being reviewed, I think, through our legislative liaison and being supported in specifically the position that you've just laid out by Mr. Jerome Reed. So I don't know if we need to add it as a priority, but rather just take note of everything you just noted, that this will be reviewed. We will advocate our position as a commission through our legislative liaison. and work to obviously do exactly as you are suggesting. But I don't know if it needs to be listed as a priority for 2022, given the fact that we are already looking at that particular matter. So can we take note that the motion proceed? And obviously note as a commission that we will continue to look at these legislative proposals and act on them as this commission deems most appropriate?
Yes, Juris Doctor, I'm fine with that.
And Commissioner Lara, your hand is still raised. Is there something else that you wanted to say? Okay, thank you. And Vice Chair Hassan, I'm smiling because I don't know if you will recall, but at the end of our meeting in November of 2021, we had a similar issue, and that was with the financial impact study regarding the having that study done. So it's just interesting how at the end of this year, we still have something that we say, okay, we're going to keep this as a priority and then move it on into the upcoming year. And if you recall, that was addressed immediately when we came back. So Commissioner Combs will remember that as well. So, okay. Is there a motion for the, and I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I'll renew my motion, motion to approve the 4 priorities.
Motion has been made by Vice Chair Hassan. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, supported by Commissioner Combs. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, the priorities for 2022 have been set. Next item are Commissioner closing comments. Any closing comments from commissioners?
I will just say a heck of a job running your last meeting.
No. I'm sorry, Commissioner Combs, I'll call you up. Vice Chair Ellison, you were saying?
I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand. My apologies. I just want to say kudos to you for today's meeting and all the meetings that were in the past, but you hit this one particularly out of the park. And I don't know if it's just the juju of you leaving, but great job. Long, okay, but fantastic and good work done.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Roberson, I will come to you in just a moment. Commissioner Combs was saying something before.
Well, I'll segue to Commissioner Roberson, if you can hear me,
okay.
That kudos to her for being one of the most powerful women in the United States, named on the magazine. And I want to make sure I take a picture with her and put that on my wall as well. So I'll see you soon.
That's fine, Commissioner Combs. I think you gave me a bit of a promotion. I don't know if it was the United States, but I'll take the Influential Women in Michigan award that I got. So thank you for that. But I really just wanted to jump in and say, Chair Clayton, you've done a fantastic job. I am in awe of what must be the best organizational skills in the world, because you've not missed a beat. You've never missed a beat on making sure that we are all up to date on any topic that concerns civil rights. And so your time on the board is so successful. I hope you consider it a success, and you will be missed for sure. And then other than that, I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving holiday to all of my commissioner colleagues, as well as anybody else who's joining us on this call today.
Thank you so much. And same here. Any other comments from commissioners before we adjourn? Okay, well, I just want to say before we do the adjournment and close out the meeting, I don't know if you'll be able to see it because I have my screensaver. I don't know if this is showing or not. Oh, it is showing. So kind of, sort of. But anyway, for this meeting, since we've been meeting virtually, I have a confession. I've just been using a wooden spoon from my kitchen when I gavel the meetings. So, because all the other things are down in a Cadillac place. But on Friday, I received an absolutely beautiful engraved gavel from the commission and from the department that lists my time, my title. So it is absolutely beautiful. I'll take a picture and send it to all the commissioners who haven't been able to see it. So it was so nice to be able to do my last meeting, gavel in and gavel it out with an official engraved gavel. So thank you very much to, I know it was Sean who made sure that that happened, and I got it in time. So thank you very much, Sean, and everyone for that. So our final agenda item is adjournment of the meeting. The next regular meeting will convene virtually on Monday, January 24th, 2020 at a time to be determined. And I suppose at a location to be determined as well, depending on what is happening regarding virtual meetings and the Open Meetings Act. Again, it's been my honor to serve on the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. I wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday season. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Combs. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Roberson. Any opposed? I don't think so. So that motion carries, and our meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is adjourned at 6:17 p.m. Everyone have a blessed and happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, mission accomplished. I mean,